last December, and we're not going to vote for it now.
That was House Freedom Caucus Chairman Scott Perry at a press conference on Capitol Hill earlier today. We're going to talk with Senator Mike Lee, who joined the House Freedom Caucus for the press event. And while impeachment and spending dominate today's headlines, don't miss the significance of this.
In this instance, we decided it was important to bring these American citizens home. And if we see Iran acting in ways that do not comply with the arrangements that are agreed to in this transaction, we will take actions to ensure that those funds cannot be spent for anything but humanitarian purposes.
That was State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressing the questions that were being raised about the Biden administration trading 5 Iranians reportedly being held for violating sanctions for 5 Americans. But the key was the U.S. releasing $6 billion to the terrorist regime that had been frozen. That, by the way, is more than 3 times what President Obama gave to Iran back in 2016. We're going to dig deeper into this with retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, Executive Vice President here at the Family Research Council, in just a moment. We're also going to check in with Missouri Congressman Mark Alford, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. The website, TonyPerkins.com, lots of resources there for you. Be sure and check it out. Our word for today comes from 1 Corinthians 6. Writing to members of the church, which he founded in Corinth, the Apostle Paul stated, "Foods for the stomach and stomach for the foods, but God will destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body." Followers of Jesus are bought with a price, and therefore are to be identified and defined by his presence in our lives, not our sexual identity or behavior. Paul continues in verse 19. He writes, "Or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? For you were bought at a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." To find out more about our journey through the Bible, go to frc.org/Bible. You can also join me each morning for a short devotional based upon the daily reading at TonyPerkins.com. All right, as I mentioned, the Biden administration announced yesterday a hostage exchange agreement with Iran that includes the release of $6 billion to a regime that has long been classified as a state sponsor of terrorism. In addition to the tone-deaf nature of announcing such a deal on the anniversary of September the 11th terrorist attacks, the transaction drew criticism for how it will enable the Iranian government to continue sponsoring terrorism while feeding its appetite to continue hostage taking, even today. And in fact, it may still be going on. In the House, there were debates over bills to impose sanctions on Iran's missile and drone programs, as well as Iran's leadership over their human rights abuses. I mean, is this not putting the U.S. at risk of being seen as schizophrenic? Joining me now to discuss this and more, retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, who serves as FRC's Executive Vice President. General Boykin spent the last 4 years of his 36-year military career serving as the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. He was one of the original members of the U.S. Army's Delta Force. General, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Just get your initial reaction, learning of this deal, again, being announced on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, that we're giving $6 billion to a terrorist regime.
Yeah, what we're doing is we are essentially paying our enemies, because they are probably in the top 3, obviously, of those who want to destroy America. They've been at this for a long time, and all you need to do is think back to 1980, when they took 52 Americans and held them for 444 days before they finally released them. But when did they release them?
Yeah, when Ronald Reagan was taking office.
On Inauguration Day. That's the missing component in the situation.
And obviously this is personal to you, because you were a part of the rescue mission that didn't succeed out in the desert after the aircraft crashed.
That's correct.
So I want to be clear on this. The $6 billion, this was assets, Iranian assets that came from oil sales that had been frozen. So this was not U.S. money, but it's money that's been frozen, that's been released to them. But this is Obama back in 2016 gave them, I think it was 1.7 billion. This is 3 times the amount that was given to them back then. I mean, now they're saying it's all for humanitarian purposes. Do you really believe they're going to use this for humanitarian purposes?
No, they are not saying, because you got to include the president of Iran as part of the they, and he has said just the opposite. He made it very clear today. And he said, we're going to spend this the way we want to, basically.
Yeah, I actually have a quote. It has not aired yet. This is will be later tonight on NBC, but this is what he said. Humanitarian means, this is President Raisi, said, humanitarian means whatever the Iranian people need. So this money will be budgeted for those needs, and the needs of the Iranian people will be decided and determined by the Iranian government.
Now, I want to just make sure everybody remembers, this is the same regime that killed 15,000 of their own people for rioting in the streets before Soleimani was killed. And so their needs, does anybody believe that they really care about the needs of the Iranian people? They want a nuclear program that will put them on par with the rest of the nuclear community.
This is actually part of the debate that was going on the House floor today. And by the way, there were some Democrats that are supportive of sanctions on Iran because of their human rights abuses. So this raises the question, General, why is the Biden administration pursuing such a relationship with Iran? I mean, you can't say just so they could see 5 Americans released. There's got to be more to this equation.
Tony, I can't give you an answer to that. I thought that I understood a little bit, at least, about this administration, but now I am totally confused because there is no logic to this. None. Look at what happened when he came back into the Iran deal, the JCPOA.
Right.
How far did that go? How well did that turn out? They're still in negotiations. That whole thing is falling apart. So now he jumps into this exchange that is going to give them $6 billion, and somebody would have to explain to me, what do we get out of this other than getting our people back? And then the question is, what price are we willing to pay for this kind of thing?
Well, Donald Trump, under the Trump administration, they brought many Americans back home. In fact, I went and retrieved one, Andrew Brunson.
Yep.
We didn't give money. That administration didn't give money. It was actually, as you talked about with Ronald Reagan, it was the threat of force. It was power. It was the intimidation factor of leadership.
Right.
What are you concerned most when you look at this transaction? What are you concerned this would lead to?
I'm concerned about 2 things. First of all, that they will use this to enhance their long-range missile capabilities as well as their warhead development. And the second thing is that they will, right now, Al-Qaeda has a rather large presence in Iran, and I think that we have to keep our eyes on Al-Qaeda because they're still there and they're still out to do us harm. And I think they'll get some of this money just like a few years ago, they funneled a lot of money into South Lebanon, to where they had a Al-Qaeda presence in an area that threatened the Israelis as well. So I'm concerned about those things most of all.
So, how much damage can you do with $6 billion?
I'm not a nuclear scientist, but I can tell you, in that part of the world especially, they can do a lot.
Does this not also, General Boykin, incentivize hostage taking?
That is absolutely no question about it. That said, hostages are going to be taken no matter what we do, because even though during the Trump period we got a lot of hostages back, we've got hostages now, and that really is a result of the weak leadership that America has, and we have demonstrated to the entire world, and we did it again. I mean, our president did it again. He got over there in Vietnam where he was center stage and told everybody he was going to bed. That's the most powerful man in the world. That's the guy that people expect to have answers it's humiliating.
The administration says, well, we're not paying for hostages to be released. But the effect is the same. It was, as I pointed out, it was Iranian assets that had been frozen because of sanctions that the U.S. helped lead, but they had to go to Qatar to actually release this money because even European banks wouldn't do it because they didn't want to get caught up in this bad deal.
Admiral Kirby, the press secretary for the Department of Defense, when he finally leaves the administration, there's going to be a fight among the liberal news outlets to see who gets him because he's perfect. He can look right into the camera and keep saying the same lie over and over and over, knowing it's a lie, and people are forced to watch that kind of nonsense. That guy is dangerous.
Final question for you. We're up against a break, but any immediate reactions from, what are we going to see come from this? Anything immediate?
I don't think immediately, but in time it will. It certainly will, and we're going to see it. We're going to see that happen. What I'm more concerned about is Kim Jong-un visiting Putin, and I think that's a bigger threat right now than this.
Well, in reports of Putin's health, are those legitimate?
I don't know. I've read all that stuff, but I really don't know. But his ability, or Kim Jong-un's ability to put some very lethal material in his hands is a real threat.
All right, well, we're going to talk about that. Not today, but we'll talk about it. General, thanks for being with me.
Good to be with you.
You are dismissed. All right, folks, you're not, though. Stick with me because we're coming back on the other side of the break. Congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, joins me for more Washington Watch. Don't go away.
Are you passionate about praying for our nation, advancing God-honoring policy, and standing for biblical truth? Are you troubled by what you see happening in our culture? If you are, we would like to invite you to join Family Research Council and FRC Action in Washington, D.C. for the 2023 Pray Vote Stand Summit. This event will feature prominent speakers, including former President Donald Trump, Dr. Ben Carson, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Senator Josh Hawley, swimmer Riley Gaines, and many more. Join us from September 15th through 17th for this national gathering of spiritually active, governance-engaged conservatives. Register today by texting PBS to 67742, or for more information, please visit us online at PrayVoteStand.org. Again, text PBS to 67742 or visit PrayVoteStand.org. We hope to see you there. Here's a moment of hope for your home with Jerry and Becky Drace.
You know what, folks? We live in a very self-consuming society. It's me, me, me. I want, I want, I want. Listen to Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding.
Teaching children to depend on God rather than self takes parents who are willing to live out this principle. Now, what are you teaching your children? Actions and words are the most important teaching tools parents have in communicating the danger of being selfish and self-consumed.
As adults and parents, we must take into consideration that our children learn first from us. Show your children that it's more important what God wants than what I want. Not me, 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 but God, God, God.
Learn more about the ministry of Jerry and Becky Drace, including evangelism with integrity, devotions, articles, and more at hopeforthehome.org.
In a world where no one can tell us no.
To this day, every human being born on this planet is the product of a male and a female. That's the way God set it up. God created us in His image.
A place where Facebook and YouTube have no control.
I think the command in Scripture relative to men and women is not mainly women sit down, but men stand up, act like men, lead as you're supposed to.
A place where we can no longer be canceled.
When the Scripture speaks, God speaks. And if you understand that rightly, then everything else simply falls into place.
The American Family Association presents the AFA streaming platform. Just visit streaming.afa.com account at streaming.afa.net.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday. All right, this is Pray Vote Stand Week. The summit is coming up this Friday and Saturday. There's still room for you, but you need to register very soon. You can go to prayvotestand.org. Great lineup. It's going to be a great weekend. We've got former President Donald Trump, former Vice President Mike Pence, Governor Ron DeSantis. We got Vivek, who's also running for president. We got Senator Josh Hawley and his wife, Erin, and a whole list. Members of Congress, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey was on the program yesterday. Pastor Jack Hibbs, my battle buddy, he's going to be there along with many, many others. Find out more, go to prayvotestand.org. All right, continuing the discussion of the Biden administration's September 11th announcement of a deal to release $6 billion, that's with a B, $billion to the ruling mullahs of Iran. Many are asking why the State Department showered concessions on a country that continues to sponsor and arm terrorist groups and kill their own people. Now, the mullahs leading the country continue to gain riches selling oil to nations like China, which is, by the way, a stark contrast from the stranglehold the Biden administration has placed on the oil production and exploration of our own country. You know, how concerned should we be now that this regime will have an additional $6 billion? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Congressman Mark Alford. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee, the House Agriculture Committee, and the House Small Business Committee. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Missouri. Congressman Alford, welcome back to the program. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Tony.
All right, we just had Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin on discussing this announcement yesterday. I want to get your reaction. The fact that it came out on September the 11th, $6 billion to a regime that has been identified and labeled as a terrorist regime.
Tony, I think it's very sad. You will remember 2 years ago that President Biden wanted to pull out of Afghanistan on the anniversary of 9/11 to make a statement. What ended up happening is some people with clearer heads, I think, convinced him to get out just a few weeks earlier, so it would not be on this somber occasion. And now, 2 years later, the President of the United States decides to free up $6 billion of the Iranian money, yes, true, but money that they can now use to fund terrorism. This is the number one terrorist state in the world intent on doing away with Israel. They are ready to build a nuclear bomb to get rid of Israel, and not we, but President Biden has seen fit to release this money to further their causes.
Well, I mean, I raised this issue earlier with General Boykin. I mean, I think America must look schizophrenic on the national stage because just today, this afternoon, on the House floor, there was a discussion over a bill to put sanctions on Iran, on their missile program and on their drone program because of their human rights abuses and other their terrorist activities. But on one hand, we're saying we're going to put sanctions on you. On another hand, we're giving them $6 billion.
You know, the administration came out today, the Pentagon, and I don't know who that spokesperson was. I was watching it on the plane a bit. This continued gaslighting of the American people. He would say, wait a minute, we're not giving the Iranians this money. Well, you're technically not giving it to them. It's their money, but you're freeing it up so they can take their money that they have in a pot now that they're going to use for other situations and circumstances and now apply it to terrorism. So, yes, you are freeing them. It's kind of like the whole Planned Parenthood.
You're absolutely right.
We're not funding abortions. Well, you're paying to keep their lights on. You're paying them to operate for so-called women's health care and reproductive care, which abortion is not reproductive care. So my point is you can play all the word games you want,
right?
But we've got our eye on you, President Biden. We know what you're up to, and it is not good for the world. It is not good for Israel. It is not good for the United States of America.
A perfect analogy. In fact, I'd written that down, that Title X funding, which funds family planning. You know, it was President Trump separated so you couldn't do abortions and family planning under the same roof, the co-location rule. And of course, the Biden administration did away with that. It's the same thing. it's covering the overhead. So this money is fungible. They can move the money around, and it's going to give them more money to do evil. I want to get to some of the appropriations bills on defense spending, but before I get to that, one final question on this. Your biggest concern coming out of this exchange of 5 Americans, 5 Iranians, and $6 billion?
Well, look, I am very glad that 5 Americans will be coming back to U.S. soil. Don't get me wrong on that. And I think the administration tries to play off the emotions of the American people to try to get things done. I think that is wrong. Him trying to tie additional Ukraine aid now to funding relief efforts in Maui and Florida, I think that is wrong. But I will say this. This is only going to make Iran think about taking more hostages.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to tell these next 5 families?
Right.
Okay, these first 5 families, we got them back home, but now you're expendable because we are funding terrorism by releasing $6 billion to the worst terrorist state known to man.
It fuels hostage taking. We were talking about that earlier. I want to move to the defense appropriations. We're talking about a continuing resolution. Hopefully we'll get to these appropriations bills because there's some good things in these appropriations bills, including restricting these funds for abortion, travel, and the woke policies of the Pentagon. We've got about 45 seconds. Tell us about it.
This is so important. We get this passed, get it passed this week, one of 11 appropriations bills we still have to pass. We're going to give the military a 5.2% pay increase. We're going to beef up our funding for next generation aircraft, desperately needed to keep China at bay. We also have $9 billion in the Pacific Defense Initiative, which is so important. We've got to get this done, Tony, for the security of America.
Well, it brings some sanity back to our government through these appropriations bills. So important that these get through the process. Congressman Mark Alford, always great to see you. Thank you for your hard work on Capitol Hill on behalf of Faith, Family, and Freedom.
Thank you, Tony. God bless you.
Congressman Mark Alford of Missouri. We're going to talk about this in just a moment. So when we come back, Senator Mike Lee is going to be joining us. He was a part of the House Freedom Caucus press conference today as they were discussing the spending. There's this push to do a continuing resolution, just kind of kick the can down the road. These appropriations bills are important. This is the only way Republicans can rein in the Biden administration. Congress has the power of the purse, but it's going to require Republican leadership staring down the Senate and the White House. Will they do it? I don't know. Stick with us. On the other side of the break, Utah Senator Mike Lee joins me.
The difference between success and failure often comes down to whether or not we act decisively. In the Bible, James 4:17 backs this up when it says, "Therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and doesn't do it, to him it is sin." You see, whether we're talking about our spiritual life or life in general, there's a huge difference between knowing what to do and taking action. In the August edition of The Stand, Ray Rooney takes a deeper look at this and how it pertains to us getting involved in the culture war. He points out that the ones who want to take away our religious freedoms, redefine morality, and ultimately destroy America are taking decisive action. Are you tired of watching our nation being destroyed, evil being called good, immorality being shoved down our throats? If we want to turn the tide of darkness and win the culture war, we have to take action. Sign up for a free trial subscription to The Stand and read Do Your Part in the Culture War at afa.net/The Stand.
Came back today.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Oh, okay. You're a very tough man, You're very strong.
So?
Yeah, you walk from 7 to 7.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I will pray for you,
Oh, yeah.
You're getting strong. Yeah.
Thank you, yeah.
Instead of worry, we're challenged to reflect on God's power and control of our lives. When we're weak, He's strong. When we face frightening waves, He controls the sea. Nothing is beyond His power. The psalm ends with God being called our fortress. He protects us from harm, just as the hymn from the Reformer Mark
Lord Jesus, thank you. Thank you for everyone here. In the name of Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. 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 Oh, la basata la pakete la pakete la la pa. Oh, la basata la machete la pa. Oh, la basata la machete la pa. Oh, la basata la machete la pa. Thank you, Lord God. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Holy Lord Jesus. Holy Lord Jesus.
These massive bills this year is going to cause about a $2 trillion annual deficit,
which is up from the previous year.
Perpetuate Democratic priorities. What's that?
The debt or the deficit this year of nearly $2 trillion is almost doubled from the previous year.
No, that's right.
Hallelujah.
By the time one can afford it, everything is getting more expensive. We're allowing government to get more expensive without requiring any kind of economizing.
I have to correct you on that, Senator. Drunken sailors can't spend that kind of money.
That's right. And really, my comments are an affront to drunken sailors everywhere who deserve more credit than be compared to Congress.
Let's talk about the way forward here. I mean, I think we're probably in the strongest position we've been in a long time. We actually have a strong conservative contingent in the House that is demanding we do things differently. What about the Senate?
Yeah, so we've got a contingent in the House with the House Freedom Caucus demanding that things be done differently. We've got a contingent in the Senate who are also demanding that we do things differently and that we prepare ourselves against what we call the uniparty. There's this almost mysterious, invisible force that impels people toward wanting to support these bills under the structure that I just described, and to look out for it and to demand that we get something better than that, and that we actually have something we can hang our hat on. Because more often than not, Tony, what emerges from these things, these bills, put forward by the uniparty, by the law firm that I mentioned, the handful of appropriators at Brexit, these bills tend to unite the Democrats. More or less a 100% join rate among Democrats, and also divide Republicans. So a few Republicans join together to facilitate whatever it is that the Democrats want to pass, and they facilitate the passage of a massive Democratic priority bonanza.
And it happens time and time again. I mean, we see the same
time and time again.
Same thing rolling out. They put, as you mentioned, they put you up against the wall with a CR saying, if you don't pass this, you get it the last minute. You don't pass it, the government shuts down. That obviously that process has somewhere somebody's got to draw a line and say, you know what, we're not moving. We're going to hold our ground. Is this that time?
Well, I think every time should be that time. This should have happened years ago, but I think we're finally at the point now where in both houses we can make it a little bit more difficult for the uniparty forces to act as they have in the past. And look, we're not imagining that with Joe Biden in the White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate, that all of a sudden everything that emerges from the Congress is going to consist of conservative priorities and a massive overhaul of everything. No, we understand that the sky is not necessarily the limit in terms of conservative policy right now, but there should be something. There should be some movement in the direction of fiscal restraint and some move in the direction of defunding or deprioritizing because of horrible programs being carried out through the federal government that shouldn't be there and that are victimizing the American people.
Very quickly, we're up against a break here, Senator. What can our viewers and listeners do to be helpful in this process?
Well, the viewers and listeners can and should reach out to their members of Congress, senators and representatives, and tell them, do not under any circumstances vote for a spending bill that you have not read, that you cannot explain to your constituents with a reasonable degree of confidence, and that you haven't had any opportunity to amend.
Yeah.
That's not too much to ask.
All
and
right.
if we just had that process in place, we could prevent a whole lot of bad stuff from coming out of this sludge pipe.
All right, that's what we'll encourage people to do. Senator Mike Lee, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, Senator Lee of Utah. All right, I'm going to give you the Capitol switchboard when we come back. Switchboard number where you can call both your members of House and your member of the House and the Senate. So don't go away. We're coming back after this.
For centuries, the Bible has inspired humanity and shaped the very world we live in. But how do we know this book is the Word of God and not merely the words of men?
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks explores the evidence of the Bible's inspiration and authority through some of the world's most respected biblical scholars.
We have essentially a dual authorship. So it's true to say that Paul wrote Romans. It's equally true to say that God wrote Romans.
He says we saw this, and that sets the Bible apart from almost everything else in the ancient world and its religious pantheon of gods and goddesses.
The God Who Speaks is a feature-length documentary from the American Family Association. Available now at thegodwhospeaks.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Peck, host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, the home of happy parents and healthy teens on AFR.net. I serve as your expert guide to engage, equip, encourage, and empower you to navigate life's toughest issues with your teens. We explore health impacts and home strategies to create a safe space in an unsafe world. The Dr. Nurse Mama Show on AFR.net.
Liberties have become licensed to sin and hurt others. But Paul jumps on that doctrine with both feet and he says, love is not like that. Love does not seek its own. Love considers the other person.
Join Dr. David Jeremiah for his series, The Power of Love, next time on Turning Point. 5:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. Central on American Family Radio.
No one makes it through life without dealing with this human emotion, loss. Hi, I'm Mark Gregston with Parenting Today's Teens. The pain that follows loss is something none of us escape. It's overwhelming when you've lost something or someone. You know what it's like to grieve a broken relationship or spend sleepless nights fretting over the loss of a dream. Well, those same painful feelings are stirred up in your teen as well. When they don't get what they want or their dreams are shattered, they experience the hollowness of disappointment. But unlike adults, teens rarely know how to express it. So keep your eyes open for grief in your teen's life and always be ready to give them a hug. All of us need those arms of affection that remind us everything's gonna be okay.
Mark Gregston is devoted to helping parents of struggling teens. Find his new book at parentingtodaysteens.org.
FRC celebrating 40 years with Michelle Bachman.
I'm so grateful for the involvement that I've been blessed to be a part of, really for decades now, with the Family Research Council. And it's a highly credible organization, and it's really just a tremendous honor to advance the kingdom of God through this organization.
certainly blessed to have former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann as our chair. I've known her back since she was in the state senate there in Minnesota, and she is a great champion for faith, family, and freedom. And she's going to be with us this coming weekend, and you can be with us as well. September the 15th through the 17th, right here in Washington, D.C., the Pray Vote Stand Summit as we celebrate 40 years. I've actually been here for half of that. Standing for faith, family, and freedom. The registration's still open, but you need to register soon. Go to prayvotestand.org for details. We're going to have Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Governor Ron DeSantis. We're going to have Senator Josh Hawley, several members of Congress, Dr. Ben Carson, Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, Riley Gaines, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Pastor Gary Hamrick, Oz Guinness, and many more. To find out more, go to prayvotestand.org. So earlier today, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy announced an impeachment inquiry into President Biden for his involvement in multi-million-dollar influence peddling schemes run by members of his family, as well as his administration's special treatment of the president's family members throughout the government's investigation into such schemes. Now, referring to this process as the logical next step, Speaker McCarthy said the House Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means will carry out the investigation, which opens a path for House investigators to issue subpoenas for the bank records of the president and his family. Joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Greg Steube. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee and the House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. He has actually introduced articles of impeachment. He represents the 17th Congressional District of Florida. Congressman Steube, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me.
So let me get your thoughts on Speaker McCarthy's statement today about the impeachment inquiry process beginning and where you think this will lead and how long it might take.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that he moved forward. Obviously, I felt compelled to file the articles of impeachment based on the evidence that I had seen. And now the Speaker of the House has determined that we should open an impeachment inquiry. And what that does is it gives these different committees special powers to be able to subpoena the president's financial records himself and see exactly where that money from these different shell companies were going. And if that money was to him, we know it came to Hunter over $20 million. We know for sure. So it allows us to have further powers. It is the logical next step to move forward. And I hope that these different committees will move in earnest. And the Judiciary Committee under the Constitution is the one tasked with the impeachment process. So it would be my assumption that once all this evidence is collected over the next couple of weeks to a month, that then the Judiciary Committee would move forward with the impeachment proceedings.
So you think this will move forward pretty quickly?
I hope so. In my opinion, that's why I filed the articles of impeachment. There's plenty of evidence already that there were specific federal laws that were broken during his time as vice president, things that he acted on while his time as president, that I felt the need to file the articles of impeachment. So I think the evidence is already there, but I think to help other members of the conference that may be more modern on their position or may not want to go through this, to be able to get all this information, actually subpoena the information, they're actually going to have the ability to depose the president as well. And so we'll see how the different chairmen move forward. But I definitely think this is a step in the right direction and a step towards impeachment proceedings.
Now, I'm not surprised about what I'm going to say here in a moment. So, but I'm stating it to get your response. The media, the lying legacy media, basically dismissing this, saying there's no evidence. Republicans are doing this. Speaker's making this announcement. There's no evidence. I mean, you've been on the committee. You've sat through the hearings. You've heard the testimony. You've seen some of the documents. Just from my perspective, I've seen enough inconsistencies with what the president has said and what has been revealed that there's a problem here.
Yeah, that's why I laid out all the evidence in my articles of impeachment that I filed. So I encourage your viewers to just go to our website, stubby.house.gov, and you can get those when we filed them. It lays out all the evidence that supports all the different federal crimes that have been committed. We now have not just the financial records, but you have corroborating witness testimony from Devin Archer, from business associates, Tony Bobulinski. You have all financial records that support what they've said. You have IRS whistleblowers that specifically said that the DOJ and the FBI wasn't allowing them to go after and issue subpoenas with Hunter Biden's name, didn't want to do search warrants at Joe Biden's house, forcing, and in my opinion, obstructing justice and not allowing the administration of justice in those cases. I think we have well enough of facts. And what's fascinating is the Democrats first said that Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation. You had these intelligence officials that said it's Russian disinformation. You had all this attempt to try to cover up what were facts. And now they're just saying that now the defense is, we don't have any evidence that Joe Biden actually took money. Well, you don't need to have evidence that he himself took money, but I think we're eventually going to get there. His family members took over $20 million for acts or omissions that he specifically did in the color of law. One of the examples was there's an oligarch from Ukraine or from Russia that gives $3 million to Hunter Biden, and soon thereafter there's a personal private dinner with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. You have all of the things that happened with Burisma and the removal of the prosecutor there in Burisma, and I'm glad that the speaker's moving forward with the inquiry because we'll be able to get to a lot of that information.
But just one thing that really just sticks out to me, and it may not be criminal, but it surely shows that the president is not honest, is that he repeatedly said he had no conversations with his son regarding his business deals, no knowledge of that whatsoever. We know that to be a flat-out lie now.
That is an absolute flat-out lie to the American people, and he's continued that lie over and over again, that he had no knowledge of his son's business dealings. One of the things that were uncovered was this WhatsApp message on Hunter Biden's cell phone where he says, "Dad's sitting right next to me. Do you want me to put him on the line?" We have Devin Archer's testimony, Tony Bobulinski's testimony, all these different individuals that said Hunter was in these meetings. There's pictures of those individuals that with Joe Biden, so you know for a fact that he was involved in all of this. And I fervently believe that Hunter was the fall guy for Joe, was doing all the business stuff. Joe Biden was doing all the official stuff, and Hunter was raking in all the money for the family.
Based on what you've seen, obviously we're talking about criminal behavior here and conduct, but it's hard not to see this and not come to a conclusion as well that this affected the outcome of the 2020 election.
Well, absolutely. When you have mainstream media and the FBI and the DOJ trying to tamp down on the Hunter Biden laptop story, then censoring the New York Post posts on all of this, you had mainstream media's coordination with all of this. And if there's been several polls that have been done, even with Democrats, asking Democrats would they have changed their vote if they knew what had happened if they knew that Hunter Biden's laptop story was true, and they said yes. And there's more than enough votes that would have changed just based on that. So yeah, this absolutely affected the last election, and the mainstream media and the FBI and the DOJ were all complicit in trying to hide and cover up all of this activity that was going on.
Look, I know you've got a background in law enforcement as I do, and I'm a law and order guy, and I support law enforcement. But when I look at what has happened with the federal government, the FBI, Department of Justice, I'm very concerned, and I want to get your take on this based upon what you've seen has happened. Are you concerned that this could still be going on, that we may see manipulation of the process even going into the 2024 election?
Yeah, and we're seeing it right now with Hunter Biden's sweetheart deal that he got that fell apart when the judge started asking very simple questions. We're seeing it now with Merrick Garland appointing a special counsel in the Hunter Biden case, the same prosecutor who told the statute of limitations on a number of the different more egregious crimes. And this is from testimony from the whistleblower. Not me saying it. This is testimony of the IRS months ago were saying that the prosecutor was slow walking these crimes so that the statute of limitations would toll and they wouldn't be able to charge them. And they did that so that when Congress goes after this information, they can hide behind the fact that it is, quote, an ongoing investigation and they can't answer any of our questions. So all of this is calculated. All of this is going on, and it's gotten worse since Joe Biden's been president because he's in control of appointing the people that's in charge of the DOJ and the FBI.
Congressman Steube, that's kind of an MO, a mode of operation that we've seen of this administration when Congress has launched an investigation. All of a sudden you see the appointment of a special counsel or an investigation. Is that all designed just to hide the information from Congress?
I believe it is 100% because they can hide behind the fact that it's an active investigation and they don't have to give us the information that we're requesting. All of this is calculated, even so much so of when the different things are happening with Trump. When there's an indictment with Trump, it surprisingly coordinates with bad press that's going on with either Hunter Biden's case or Joe Biden's case, and the mainstream media only reports about the things about Trump and not what is happening with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
So, Congressman Steube, what do Americans need to do? Those that are watching this program, listening to this program, we of course, one thing I know from the Bible, Luke chapter 18, Jesus says men ought to pray and not lose heart. I think we need to be praying right now for where our nation is, praying for the truth to be revealed. But we also need to roll up our sleeves and go to work. We need to be making phone calls. We need to be bold enough to talk about this with our family and friends and let them know the level of corruption that's out there.
Yeah, because the mainstream media is not reporting it. I mean, all of these things are going on, and if you turned on the mainstream media, you're not going to hear a lot about all of the specifics of the crimes that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have committed. So you're absolutely right. It's inherent on all of us to be able to get that information out because the mainstream media is not going to put it out. And not to get political, but to obviously support candidates that are going to stand for truth and stand for justice and stand for the ideals and principles that founded America.
Give out your website again. I know we've got a link to your Twitter, but I'm going to try to get that document up on TonyPerkins.com. Go ahead and give your website out again where people can look at the articles of impeachment.
It's Steube.house.gov, and you can follow us on all the social media platforms at Rep. Greg Steube.
All right, and I'm going to try to get, folks, I'm going to try to get that up on the site so you can look at it because Greg has laid out all of the information there for you to see. And this is the kind of stuff that's good to have conversations with your friends and not just, I heard this, but you can read it. And when you put it, I mean, Greg, when you file a bill with all of that listed in there, you've got the documentation to back it up.
Yeah, and through, thankfully, all the different investigations that 3 different committees in Congress have been doing, everything from the Ways and Means from the IRS piece to oversight on all the different financial dealings to the Judiciary and the Weaponization Committee, we've gathered a treasure trove of information and evidence, and it's hard looking at that, regardless of your political affiliation, to not know that crimes have been committed and not see that crimes have been committed. So that the left and the mainstream media can deny all day long that there's no evidence that Joe Biden was involved in this. There is tons of evidence that Joe Biden was involved in this. So much so just with Burisma that he got the prosecutor removed that was going after Burisma in Ukraine. I mean, and then Hunter Biden's making $90,000 a month for that. So now that the impeachment inquiry is open, we'll be able to go after the specific financial information of President Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and that should open up a lot more facts and evidence before the American people.
You've had subpoena power, but what has been the limitation thus far?
Yeah, apparently we haven't been able to specifically go after the president and specifically subpoena his records because it wasn't an impeachment inquiry. So now by doing that formal impeachment inquiry act that the speaker has now done, it opens up that ability to go after his personal financial information.
So what are you hearing from your colleagues regarding this in terms of the inquiry?
Well, my conservative colleagues obviously feel like I do that it's about time that we're moving forward and doing this. There's a litany list of evidence to support an impeachment inquiry. I mean, think about I've sat through 2 impeachment proceedings in my 6 years in Congress when I was on the Judiciary Committee, and they impeached Trump for a phone call to a foreign leader. And you sit there and you read all this evidence, all this testimony,